let's move over to the Senate, where social media has been a hive of activity following the Senate's unanimous passage of the electoral amendment bill proposing dual mode of election results transmission, with many reacting to Senator Onyekachi Abaribe's swift retreat after initially proposing that senators vote individually on the proposal.
Senator Nwebonyi has proposed that we should go ahead and vote. So those SARS. Abbas, Osho, Baba. Now, gentlemen, this is the beauty of democracy.
Well, the reactions to that were mixed, with some people saying, what a bold moment from Senator Abaribe, and other people saying, oh, why didn't he stick to his guns? And others also saying, where were the other opposition senators in the room? Well, protests also continued for a second day outside the National Assembly yesterday, with appearances from former Rivers State Governor Rotimi Amechi, who brought his son with him, and former Minister Solomon Dalung. Whilst day one of the protests was relatively calm, day two saw rising tension between protesters and the security forces, including a face-off between Amechi and the police, as well as Aisha Yesufu and the police.
Nobody can frustrate my right. Nobody.
And intimidate of this country. Just to say, let's continue what I did. The one thing that you, in short, let me tell you something. The thing that you, all of you can do here, I to say you will kill people. I tell you, I assure you. Enough is enough. Yes.
Nobody can frustrate.
All right, well, joining us on the show this morning to discuss the Senate's re-amendment of the Electoral Act to accommodate the electronic transmission of results is Senator Onyekachi Nwebonyi, Senator representing Ebonyi North Senatorial District in the 10th National Assembly. Good morning, sir, and welcome to the program.
Thank you so very much for this opportunity.
Well, Senator, thank you for joining us very quickly. We don't need to repeat the stories again.
Thank you.
Just to ask you, do you think that the Senate of the Federal Republic has listened to the Nigerian people and acted accordingly? Or, based on what transpired yesterday, the Senate has offered the people of Nigeria a red herring? So is this a question of accountability or of the Senate taking the best route to ensure political stability in the country? What's your take?
Thank you so very much, Abati. Let me start by saying that the 10th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, under the leadership of His Excellency Senator Godswill Akpabio, yesterday made history in the political and the electoral processes and developments of our country, Nigeria. You agree with me that the Electoral Act 2022, as it is today, pending the amendment, never made mandatory electronic transmission of results from polling unit to IREV. It is the 10th Senate, in line with demands from all Nigerians, that we should make our electoral processes more transparent and fair. And that is why we took that bold step yesterday to expressly insert electronic transmission of results from polling unit to IREV. After signing the same result and copies given to polling unit agents and, of course, security agencies at the polling unit. I believe that with what we've done, that all Nigerians should be applauding the 10th Senate, because this is the first time we are taking that bold step. And let me clear the coast more. By making it mandatory, pursuant to Section 60 sub 3, as amended, making it mandatory that all results from the polling units must be transmitted to IREV. Now, the provision that the opposition is complaining about only said, whereby there is no network or whereby there are electronic hitches in transmission, just like we witness in our banks. At times I can transfer money to you. You may not get credit within record time. But that does not mean that that money I transferred, I'm not going to your bank, to your account. If you wait for some time, that money will drop. At best, you can make reference, to your app. So that provision is just saying, whereby there and then, the result didn't report at the IREV as a result of a network problem or other hitches in the course of the transmission, that the presiding officer should not cancel such a result. The result in INEC form EC8A should be announced and be transferred to the next level. Probably before you get to the next level, the IREV result may have dropped. That is what we are talking about. And I believe that all fears have been cleared. What the other political parties should be doing, including APC, is to build a more strong platform in their polling units to make sure that everything goes seamlessly. But as Parliament, I believe that we've done what we're supposed to do, taking into account the agitations and yearnings of Nigerians. And I must tell you, from yesterday till now, that we'll pass that aspect, though not completely, because we constituted a conference committee to meet with our colleagues from the House of Reps to finally harmonize, all these sections that is of concern to Nigerians. And I want to assure you that at the end of the day, we are going to come up with a very solid law that will guarantee free, fair, and transparent election in Nigeria. People like us, the younger politicians, will want it so, because we want it so, because that is why I'm even here as a senator. Thank you.
Senator Nwebonyi, thank you so much. What some people might have described as historic would have been if the Senate had adopted what the House had passed without any ambiguities or transference of responsibilities. So the question I'd like to ask you is that why didn't the Senate just adopt, in the spirit of listening to the yearnings of the Nigerian people, what the House of Representatives had already passed? Because as the opposition, PDP, has described, what they did was being clever by half.
Well, in Nigeria, we have bicameral legislative system. We have the House of Reps, which is the lower chamber, and we have the Senate, which is the upper chamber. Yes, the House of Reps, yes, they're entitled to the opinion, whereas we as senators, we're also entitled, to our own opinion. And that is the essence of having this conference committee. And I believe that people who are pursuing one goal, and what is the goal? Our goal is to make a law that will make a poor man who is popular in his constituency to win the election without knowing anybody. That is what we are talking about. And I'm one of the beneficiaries of such things. I contested with a former governor, former minister, two-term senator, but I defeated him because the process was free and fair. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know who is the collection officer. I didn't know anybody, the security agencies. But I positioned my agents at the polling units, and that is why I'm here. And we have strengthened that by making it mandatory that result must be electronically transmitted. If you didn't report at the IREV within record time, that shouldn't vitiate the result. You will only come up with a point of law where what is written in the polling unit is different from what is reported in the IREV. You can go to court, and I bet you I'm a lawyer, the court will take what is in the IREV, because what is in IREV is devoid of any form of manipulation. Remember, in the course of accreditation, beavers are used to checkmate fraud, because at the end of the voting, if the number accredited didn't tally with the number of votes cast, then there's a foul play. The law requires the collection officer to cancel such a result. So I believe that all fears has been cleared, and Nigeria should jettison politics to be patriotic for once. But that notwithstanding, we've received, praises from majority of Nigerians on what we did, because what was an issue is to make it mandatory for the result to be transmitted electronically, and that is what we have done. The proviso downwards does not suffice. It's saying in case where such thing happens, because if you didn't put that provision, It means that where network fails and the result is not being transmitted within record time, you are saying that the result should be cancelled. That is not fair. In America, for example, if you are challenging an election result, you must swear an affidavit and undertake to pay the cost for such result, first election to be repeated. We cannot go there now until we get there.
Senator Nwebonyi.
Not built in a day.
Senator Nwebonyi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I've been calling you since my very,
Yes, my brother.
My very dear senator. You see, I like the story of how you won that election, defeat former God. He's the God of Nwebonyi. The God of Nwebonyi send down fire.
Yes.
The God of Nwebonyi.
And that God will do it again.
Amen. My dear brother.
My
dear brother, please, I want to ask you one question.
Yes.
Are you sure that the result on the IREV is justiciable? I've not seen anywhere where they say the courts will accept the result on the IREV and you can tender it as evidence to upturn elections in court too.
Okay.
Are you sure on that? Number one. Number two, Senator Nwebonyi, I don't know who people that are praising you, maybe they're your family members. Because I'm not here to praise. In fact, I'm here to condemn. Wait, let me finish now. You are my dear brother. I'm here to condemn the Senate. Because what you people did yesterday was what Dr. Abati has been calling a red herring. You know what a red herring is? A logical fallacy. In one breath, an impossibility. In one breath, you say electronic transmission it shall go through. In another breath, you say it's at the discretion of the presiding officer that determines if network is good or not. So are you saying we have over 176,974 polling units? Are you saying is these presiding officers that will determine if the network is good or not? So what you people have done is to deceive and trick Nigerians. I don't know those that are praising you, but I'm not sure our lovely mommy Obi Ezekwesili will be part of them praising you this morning. Those two questions.
Thank you, Rufai.
Thank you, my brother.
I'm happy that you still acknowledge me as your very good friend, and I am. Now, what we did is correct and should be accepted by every patriotic Nigerian, except those, who are playing the politics of opposition. But I've always said, everything is not politics. This is a fact, and they have to argue with facts. Now, by inserting for the first time the electronic transmission in our law gives court the power to recognize any result from IREV. It was not so before. And I said it, and I expected you should praise me and the 10th Senate in that aspect. You know, the 9th Senate never did so. You can read the Electoral Act 2022 from beginning to the end. You will not see where IREV was mentioned. You will not see where electronic transmission was mentioned. But the 10th Senate boldly said in Section 60 sub 3, as proposed to be amended, that the presiding officer at every polling unit, after collecting the result, entered in Form EC81A, shall, not may. That word shall makes it mandatory. And that word shall gives the court the power to recognize the result in IREV. And if that transmission fails at the moment, it will report in the system that it was tried and it failed. So it doesn't give INEC or the presiding officer the discretion to say that there is network or there's no network. Everybody will be there. The polling agents will be there. Security agencies will be there. It will be done in an open place. And that takes me to what I said on channels just a few minutes ago. People should stop playing politics on television or protesting at the National Assembly. National Assembly is not the problem of Nigeria. The problem of Nigeria is you and I and the man in the street. Can we for once do what we're supposed to do as Nigerians before we can hold our leaders accountable? But everybody is claiming to be a saint. Now, I won't dwell into the candidates because we are yet to produce candidates for the forthcoming general election 2027. But I want to assure you that APC, the victory of APC is already looming everywhere. And that is the fear of their position. But let me tell you something, you cannot stop a good man.
Very quickly, thank you very much. I have two very short questions for you. The first is, I want to know, because you did say you're a lawyer, I want to know what you understand as Form EC8A by the presiding officer and countersigned by the candidates or polling agents where available shall in such a case be the primary source of collation and declaration of results. Because by the use of the word primary, it means that anything else is inferior or secondary. So how can you say that the result on the IREV can be contested in court if it's a case like what we saw in Edo State in 2024, where IREV and physical forms had totally different results? That's the first question. The meaning of the word primary. Then my second question is, you're talking about accountability, but you guys were not open to individual votes. You wanted a mass voice vote. If it's accountability, why couldn't each of you call your names and have your position recorded by Nigerians?
Thank you very much. But let me take your question bit by bit. If you lump the questions, I will miss your answers. So can you repeat the first question before going to the second questions? Thank you.
No problem. Very briefly, Senator, define the word primary.
To take over this
define the word. Okay, he's free to do so. That's fine. You have, we invited you. You're our honorable guest. Define the word primary. When something is primary and something else is secondary, what happens?
In law, we have primary evidence. We have secondary evidence. We have certified true copy of the primary evidence. All these copies are admissible in court with fulfilling some conditions. Now, why it's called primary evidence is that is the first point of reporting the result as it happened in the polling unit. That is why that form EC8A is called primary, because that is the first result. Now, this result will be transmitted to IREV. That result in the IREV, in law, without express provision, is a CTC of what is in the form EC8A. And the court will recognize what is in the IREV, because pursuant to Section 60, sub 3 of the Electoral Act, as proposed to be amended. And that should clear all the fears of Nigerians. That is the point.
So
that is what we're talking about.
Will be
so
superior.
Any argument
what
you
if
are
they are
making,
different? What if they are different, as we saw in Edo State? What if they are different?
They are the same.
They
are the same. Primary document is the same thing.
What was uploaded to IREV
because it was not entrenched. Why that happened was because there was no law backing electronic transmission before now. But the 10 senators have taken the bold step to make it a law that the result, though primarily, after being written in Form EC8A, should be transmitted to IREV. The result in the IREV is the same thing with the result in the EC8A, where there is differences, where the figure in the Form EC8A fails to tally with what is in the IREV. I'm not the court, but I assure you that the court, by virtue of what we've done, by virtue of demands of Nigerians, by virtue of the 10 Senate being a corrective and responsive Senate, responding to the demands of the majority of Nigerians, inserted Section 60 sub 3 to make it now a law in Nigeria, which never happened since 1960, even from 1914, when the country was amalgamated. So I believe that the 10 Senate deserve applause from Nigerians. Thank you, sir.
Nwebonyi, I like your energy. Yes. I like your enthusiasm. This morning alone, you have gone from one TV station to another. I think a man should stand up for what he believes in. And I've said earlier on that what the Senate has done is to respond to the concerns of Nigerians and to meet them halfway to show that this Senate is committed to political stability and peace. However, where the issue is that you raised the point that the 2022 electoral did not talk about electoral transmission. Are you sure? If you look at the guidelines, there is an issue there about transmission, which is allowed as part of the modes that the INEC can use. what is the issue here is that the Supreme Court, December 2023, by John Inyang Okoro, JSC, ruled that IREV is a viewing portal. It's not a collation portal. To what extent does this latest position override the position of the Supreme Court? And then the second issue is about associated issues. Wait. No, you can take the two of them together. It's about funding.
No, let me take the first one. Let me take the first one, sir.
Okay.
If you oblige me, sir.
Yeah, but be brief.
Yes.
Because
now,
the second question is important.
You're brief, sir.
Go ahead.
I will brief, sir. I'll be brief, sir.
Yes.
I'll be brief, sir. Now, the difference between the Electoral Act of 2022 and what we are doing now, and which will make the decision of the court different from what happened in INEC versus Atiku, which is a very popular case, celebrated case, as far as this electronic transmission of voice is concerned, is that this is the time, this is the time that the National Assembly have inserted it in our law. And the word there is shall, not may. That is the difference. And moreover, the INEC guideline and the Electoral Act overrides the INEC guideline. If there is conflict between the guideline and the act is the act of the parliament. The guideline is a guideline of the agency. So the Electoral Act supersedes the guideline. So with what we have done now, Abati, and to all Nigerians, nobody will rig election in Nigeria. All that is required is for all eyes to be on the ball by all political players. Thank you.
Okay, this morning, I also quoted Joseph Stalin, who said, those who vote decide nothing. Those who count the votes decide everything. Now, the Senate and subsequently the major conference of the two chambers would, following the same path, I imagine, would discharge itself, acquit itself. However, how about INEC? Because the responsibility now is on the part of INEC. How about funding? How about providing the infrastructure? How about ensuring that INEC even gets its funds early enough to be able to make any difference? I know the legislature cannot determine that. So those who count the votes, what level of burden do you think that they now bear?
Thank you so very much. With the position of the law, if adopted the way it is, wherein the transmission has been made mandatory, the man who is counting the votes has nothing to add or remove as far as counting of that vote is concerned. Like I said earlier, remember, upon arriving at the polling unit, the first thing you do is accreditation with the BVAS machine. The number of accredited voters will, at the end of the day, will be matched with the number of vote cast. So if the number of vote cast is more than the number accredited, the result of that entire polling unit remains cancelled. That is the law. That is the law. Now, when you come to providing logistics to INEC, of course, it goes without saying that INEC, bill or budget have always been treated as a first-line charge. And I don't think as of today that INEC will complain. They have given notice of election, are about to give. I believe that at the right time, the chief executive, the number one citizen, the president commander-in-chief, I know very well, will not hesitate to provide to INEC what they need to give Nigerians credible, free, and transparent election come 2027 and beyond.
With this new electoral law you passed, who will be the one? What evidence will be brought forward? Is it the E68A form, physical? Evidence will be taken to court to prove an election. Is it the E68A form or the result on the IREV downloaded on the flash?
By the law, both stands as credible evidence in law court. Both of them has evidential value in court.
More time, but unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for your time and your submissions. Several concerns, I think, still continue, even though you've shed some more light. However, it doesn't seem like the concerns have been ironed out. The conversation will continue.